Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you all for plugging into our webinar tonight, where we're going to talk about some financial concepts that makes a lot of sense financially right now in the time we're living in 2024. So many people that we talk to are concerned. They're concerned that I have a good job, I got money coming in, and I think I have enough coming in. As a matter of fact, it's more than I've ever had at any time in my life. But I don't understand why it seems like it goes out as quick as it comes in. I have all the education. I've done all the academic things correctly. I got good grades in school. I said please and thank you. I said yes, sir, and no, ma'am. I did everything by the books. And I don't understand how I'm making more money now than I've ever made in all of my life. And it still seems to be real tight. Then there are those on the call on the webinar tonight. That's not your testimony. You're doing very well. The budget is always intact. Bills are paid on time, and you're on track to pay the house off early and pay everything off early. And many of you have paid it off already. And I want to applaud those that have done that. But then there are more that have not done that than those that have done that. My name is Ricky Pitts, and I'll be your host for tonight. And we're going to deal with some bare fundamentals tonight. I think all of us know somebody that has built a house before. And to build a house, you just can't decide, I'm going to build a house. They got to have a blueprint. And the blueprint is really important because it keeps the air in the summer and the heat in the winter. Because without a blueprint, there's a lot of gaps and cracks in the house because they tried to figure that thing out on their own. So I'm going to kind of start right there. Exactly what is the purpose of a blueprint? What is it designed to do? Well, it provides guidance for construction. It serves as a detailed guide. It serves to have precise measurements to make sure things are not all over the place. It helps us not to buy too many materials and supplies, excess material. So it kind of gauges that. It assures accuracy and efficiency. That's the reason for a blueprint. Now, I want you to think about this from another standpoint here, and that's in building a house. And I want you to, if you got a notepad and a pen, encourage you to take a lot of notes tonight. And the notes that you're going to take tonight it's going to look like it's really, really simple to some, and some it's going to look like it's not that simple. But either way, I want to encourage you to write some things down in preparation for building the financial house. It has to be built. We have to put it on paper. I read somewhere not long ago to write the vision and make it plain, and that he can run when he read it. You've heard that if you've done any kind of Sunday school or just a little bit. And it's important to put some things down. And eventually, no work goes undone or is in vain. Work works. So I want to start right here. I'm going to start on the 5 pillars of building a financial house. This is life by design, not life by chance. Number one thing I'd like you to write down in building this financial house is protection. That's life insurance. That's a last will and testament. That's a living will. That's a power of attorney. The next important thing in that pillar I want you to write down is debt and dealing with this thing called debt. If there's a mortgage, what's the balance of that mortgage? And we're going to talk about that in more detail shortly. All other debt, the balance, payment, and interest rates. And I'm going to cover these things in more detail during our short talk here tonight. Expenses is also important. Housing, family, giving, transportation, and leisure. All these things need to be noted, and we need to be aware of all these different expenditures. In the 4th column, this is the asset column. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get old one day, unless we die young. And we got to plan for a place that we're going to be in for the rest of our lives, and that place is our future. And that's going to take a plan. That doesn't just happen automatically. So things like 401ks and IRAs, Roth IRAs, annuities, emergency funds, college savings, those things are really important when it comes down to planning for the future. And then the last column is generating more income. adjusting the routine, adjusting the schedule to generate more income, and then determining the reason why. Why am I doing this? Why am I going through all these changes just to make another 1,000 or 500 or $1,500 or $2,000 extra per month? I'm working all this overtime or extra time. And sometimes we just got to do what we got to do. Then I want you to think about the income. Now, I got a few things written down here, and I want you to think about your gross income. Now, let's kind of define gross income. This is not to insult anybody's intelligence. We know everybody don't know the difference in gross and net income. We just know I'm going to put this 40 hours in, I'm going to put this time in, I'm going to get paid a check, and I'm just going to look at what I'm bringing home. But we're going to talk about the gross. I want you to write down your gross income before anything comes out of your paycheck. Before FICA, federal, state, local, any taxes, any health insurance, any retirement program, the gross. Then I want you to write down what you bring home, what you're working with, the net income. I want you to write down all other monthly income, whether it be any kind of child support, any kind of part-time business, any kind of disability income that's coming in, any kind of, if you're in the military, any kind of any income coming in there. Write it all down. I want you to look at your check stub. Now, why is that so important? I've seen people that got things coming out of their paycheck that they hadn't seen, they hadn't looked at it in 2 or 3 years. And I say, what is this coming out of your paycheck? They say, I don't know. It's been coming out now for about 10 years or 4 years. If you know anybody that's done that, I want you to put that in the chat that we have in the system there now. Just chat. I'm guilty that I'm paying things that I don't know exactly what it is. I'm going down to HR. I'm going to make a change of that deduction. Then the next one also is approximate tax refund. What do you plan to get back this year? Now, I could talk about that a little bit tonight. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on a tax refund, which is giving Uncle Sam an interest-free loan and letting him hold that money for 12 months with no return. But that's a whole nother subject for another time. So that's part one. Then I also want you to think about assets. We plan to retire one day. I want you to think about what you currently have saved right now. Well, and then number one, your retirement or transition age. When I say transition age, when you leave your current employer, do you plan to transition and do something else with another employer or start a different business? Retirement balance. What's in the account right now? 401k contributions or any kind of retirement contributions. What are you adding to the account every single month right now? Does your employer add something in with it? Is the employer matching? Do you have money from an old job that you never rolled over? Because nobody ever talked to you about the importance of rolling money over and reallocating and making sure that it's in line with your current objectives since you've left that employer? Do you have a pension program on your job? What's the balance? Can you transfer the balance, or can you only take a monthly payment in your pension? How is it designed? What's in the checking and savings account? And don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed because it is what it is. Some people say, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to talk about that. I've been working all this time and don't worry about it. Listen, it is what it is. We cannot fix what we don't identify. So we want to take our time and identify really what's going on in the home. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the mortgage. If you're buying a home right now, it's important to know exactly how to cut that payment open. What's the current balance on that home? What's the current market value of the home? Now, when I say market value, not the sentimental value. I heard folks say, I think my house worth this. I said, well, I'm glad how you think your house is worth, but we're talking about what the market would bring for the home, the market value of that home if you sold it today or tomorrow. Then also the total payment. What are you paying per month on that house altogether, the total payment? And how much of that payment, ladies and gentlemen, is going to principal? How much is going to interest? How much is the escrow? The escrow is used to pay the homeowner's insurance, the property taxes, the private mortgage insurance, which is another subject we can talk about a little bit later, and the interest rate on the home. Let's know exactly how fast that house is moving in terms of bringing the balance down, because there's a way to pay it off early. It's called mortgage acceleration, where you accelerate the process of eliminating that debt and pay it off sometimes 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 years earlier. There's a way to get that done. The next important thing is other debt. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight as well. All the other debt. You want to write down the name of every other bill you have outside of the mortgage. Now, when I say bill, I'm not talking about utilities and that type of thing. I'm talking about debt, anything that carries a balance. Then there's a payment and there's an interest rate. For an example, Visa card, $2,500 is the balance. The payment is $175 per month. Interest rate 15.75. You see, why is this so? See, credit cards, it's almost like well, I hate to call them wicked and evil. You know, I don't want to do that, but they very sneaky, and people tend to say, "I'm going to pay mine off," and they get something and they start paying, doing pretty good in the beginning, and then the balance grows a little bit more from 500 to 15 and 2,000, 3,000. Then they got them, and all they can pay is the minimum payment. And they pay a credit card for 20 and 30 years with a small balance, only paying the minimum. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a way to pay those things off early. And all it takes is a system and a little discipline to get that done. Don't let them get out of control. If they've gotten out of control, there's still hope. You can bring them back in control. You can have a debt buster and knock those things out. In this conversation about money tonight, I want you to think about protection. You see, everything living at some point will die. Not a real popular subject. People don't want to talk about life insurance. Oh, we don't want to, but it's real. You have to plan for dying like you plan for living. I know that's kind of morbid and people don't want to, but that's the truth. Now, I want you to think about what you have right now in life insurance. What do you have in total coverage on you if you leave here tomorrow, or leave here next week, or leave here anytime? Nobody knows when. What would you leave your family? What kind of legacy, what kind of generational wealth would you leave them? And one way of doing that is with life insurance. What are you paying per month for that right now? What are you paying per month for car insurance right now? Do you have the proper limits of liability? If not, there's someone that you can talk to, and we can help you with that. I'll give you direction to somebody or refer somebody that could do that for you to make sure you have the proper limits of liability. Then what about directions after death? If you leave here anytime, I heard a military guy told me this years ago. He said, Ricky, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. The question is, do you have a will? Do you have a living will? Do you have a durable financial power of attorney? I've seen some sad cases, I'm sure you have as well, where a person dies, they got grown adult children, and the children stop speaking to one another because one thought they should have gotten this and the other one thought they should have gotten that. And it's a real rough conversation. They get into this, they say words they can never get back. When if they had a will, a last will and testament in writing, they'll argue for a while, but then they would say, well, I guess that's what my mama wanted. I guess that's what daddy wanted. So, hey, it is what it is. And they can have dinner together again. They can go out together again. They can go to the reunions again and not avoid one another. I can spend a little time on this, ladies and gentlemen, but I want to encourage you, don't put that part off. Write it down so the judge and the state don't decide for you who's going to get your stuff, things, who's going to get your children, particularly if they're real young children. That's a sad situation. The next important thing is a budget. A budget is a bad word for a lot of people, but I want you to look on this and think about the Department of Housing. In the Department of Housing, on this list, what do you spend money on? If you're not buying a house, what is the rent? What is the home phone? What is the mobile phone or mobile phones? Sometimes now we have clients that are single moms and they got the children, when I say children, 3 and 4 years old, got a cell phone. So look at that. Internet. Netflix, Hulu, Prime, YouTube TV, power and gas, water and sewage, lawn care, and lawn cuts and this type of thing, alarm systems, home warranty. You want to write those things down. That's just in one department. That's the Department of Housing. But then we have a whole nother department we got to take a look at. That's the Department of Family. Now, if you got teenage kids, they eat like a, some people say they eat like a horse. The refrigerator is open all the time. When you get out for the summer, it's a swinging door, the refrigerator. So what do you spend on groceries? Y'all know I'm telling the truth. So I want you to put in the chat, what do you think the typical person spends on groceries? Just put it in the chat. Just every month, what do they spend on food? What do they spend on clothing? What do they spend on medical, dental, vision? What do they spend on laundry and dry cleaning? I want y'all to put in the chat, what do you think the typical family, this one or two kids, what they spend on child care? Child care can be just like a house payment. If you got two kids in child care, you know that's a mortgage, right? So I want you to write down what do you think you spend on child care. What do you think with child support? Private school is another one that can be very, very expensive. Hair, nails, barbershop, animal care. If you have animals, they got to be taken care of. So these are what I'm saying tonight is, in this money conversation, we can spend money unconsciously and not know we're doing it. That's why it's important to put it on paper and talk with a financial coach about ways and means of bringing things up under subjection and in control financially. The next important area is giving, whether it be tithing or religious giving, family giving, birthdays that you give cash. And that's one of the things about birthdays. They roll around every year, and sometimes you got a niece got a birthday, son got a birthday, daughter got a birthday, wife got a birthday, husband got a birthday, boyfriend got a birthday, girlfriend got a birthday, mama got a birthday, daddy got a birthday. Then you got graduations. Oh my goodness, you got little Joe, he graduating, baby sister, Katrina, Joetta, all the and look, they don't want a naked card. You know what a naked card is, right? A card with no money in it. They want money in the card. So all these things add up. And it's important to be able to say sometimes, congratulations, you did it. Congratulations. But they want some congratulations and some compensation. And so birthdays, Mother's Days, Father's Day, Christmas, and graduation, these areas right here can literally get all the way out of control. I had the privilege of talking to some seniors at Carver High School in Montgomery, Alabama. And when I talked about this section right here, they said, oh my goodness, Christmas and graduations. The children are 18 years old, and many of them had jobs while working in school, was spending a lot of money at 18 on Christmas and birthdays and graduations and this type of thing. We've got to get it under control, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Because I'm telling you right now, we're going to get old one day, and we're not going to have that kind of money. It's likely we won't have that kind of money. So it's important to have a plan in place right now. Another department is the Department of Transportation. How many times do you fill your car up every single week or every 2 weeks? What do you spend on oil changes? This is maintenance. Because if we don't maintain that car, guess what? We're going to end up finding ourselves at a car lot getting frustrated because one particular week you got in your car to go to work and the car didn't crank. It just would not turn over at all. And you say, I can't stand this. I can't take it. I work too hard. I owe myself something. Now, the only thing you found out, the battery went dead in the car, right? Okay. But you got so upset and frustrated because that morning you had to be at a meeting or whatever the case may be. This was a $200 problem or $250 problem or $125 problem. We took that $125 problem and traded it in on a $45,000 solution. Did y'all hear what I just said? The battery needed to be replaced. Everything else was operating. But I was so frustrated because it happened that day. I went straight to the car lot, traded it in, which means you gave it away, right? And got a a brand new one with a brand new payment. And by the third month, the newness had worn off. And you say, oh my goodness, what have I done? I want you to think about that, ladies and gentlemen. And even also lease payments is another area we got to be careful of. The other department is the Department of Leisure. I wanted to talk a little low on that because I didn't want to offend anybody, but it's the truth. The Department of Leisure, vacation. What do you spend yearly or every 2 years on vacation? Hobbies, whether whatever it may be, playing golf, bowling, whatever it may be, any kind of hobbies. Club memberships. Now, at the end of the year, there's a lot of folks that join the gym, and because we're gonna do it this year, okay? And then around by March, the gym is kind of empty, right? But in December and January, it's jam packed. They end up moving to the music and everything else. But now, if you have a gym membership and you're not going, listen, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm not. I'm simply saying that if it's an expense that's not being used, delete it, cut it out. So that's gym. And eating out, entertainment, books and subscriptions. Now we have to really watch that part, ladies and gentlemen, of eating out because it's a real sneaky expense. And we can find ourselves spending $5 a day for, let's say, a cup of coffee, $10 for a sandwich, not a real big sandwich, it's a little sandwich and a little drink. That afternoon, $15 for a nice salad. That's $30 so far that day. Do that every day, that's $900 a month. If you got 2 people doing that, that's $1,800 a month eating out. I was talking to one of my clients some time ago, and I said, "Now, do you know how to cook?" They said, "Yeah, I know how to cook, but I just don't do it." Well, listen. Anyway, that can get expensive. That can get expensive. The next important thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close it right here. There's a book we want to send out to everybody called How Money Works. There's also something called a record and rolls organizer that everyone can get a copy of. If whoever invited you out tonight, tell them that you want a copy of these 2 documents. The How Money Work is a 40-page document that talks about planning and budgeting and debt reduction and paying your mortgage off early and getting out of debt, buying the right life insurance, investing with professional money management. All these things it talks about in this How Money Work guide of about 40 pages, and it's absolutely free. And the other one, as far as organizing, is putting everything in one place. Who's a doctor? Who's a lawyer? Who's a financial advisor? What social media accounts are in place? What are the passwords? What bank accounts are in place? What are the passwords? It's transparency for the family. So when something happens, they don't have to turn the house upside down to find those things. Ladies and gentlemen, we really do appreciate your time tonight. We don't want to hold you a very long time, but I want to kind of summarize what we talked about today in this way. There are 5 critical things that we need to give attention to in pulling this all together and getting our financial house in order. Number 1 is protection management. That is to say, make sure you have the right kind and the right amount of life insurance so you can leave a legacy when you're gone, generational wealth. In that protection management, make sure you take a look at your limits of liability on the car insurance and home insurance. Make sure in that protection management, you have a will, a living will, and a durable financial power of attorney. In that second piece, look at the debt. Look at everything that carries a balance. You make a payment on it, and there's an interest rate. Know exactly how much debt you have, and do all you can not to get any additional debt that's going to put you deeper and deeper in the hole. This is important. The third thing is expense management. Look at all your living expenses. Water bill, light bill, gas bill, cable TV, Kroger's and Winn-Dixie, Old Charlie's, Thank God It's Friday, Ruby Tuesday, hairdresser, fingernail lady, barbershop, all these things. Look at all the living expenses and say, wait a minute, now, do I have more going out the door than I have coming in the door? I need to make an adjustment and to get everything in alignment because I don't want to be driving this financial car out of alignment because it's going to wear my tires clean out. The fourth one is asset management. I want to retire one day. I want to retire and be able to go to all the reunions. I want to retire and be able to go on a nice vacation. I want to retire and be able to watch the grandkids out in the backyard, run off and play and all in the yard. I want to retire and be able to retire with some dignity. I got this many more years before retirement, whether it be 10 years or 15 years or 20 years or 5 years, whatever that time is, look at it. Because time, you heard people say, time does not wait. Time is intoxicated with obedience. It's always on time, every time, all the time. It does not negotiate, deliberate, it marches on. When am I going to retire? And how many months or weeks or days is it before that? And what can I put aside out of every paycheck or once a month toward that end, because that end is coming. The fifth one is income management. If what you have coming in right now is in income is not enough to make the ends meet, give yourself permission to do something part-time. And let me say this, don't worry about what people say. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you can't please people. They're going to talk if you do good. They're going to talk if you do bad. They're going to talk if you work 40 hours. They're going to talk if you work 20 hours. If you work 40 hours, you ain't working enough. You work 60 hours, that boy ain't got no balance. He just all about work. You can't please, if you try to please people, just don't leave the house, sit at home and watch the Andy Griffin show or something pleasant, but just don't leave the house. You can't please them. So thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate your plugging in and logging in. Hope you have a great rest of the evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you again real soon. Y'all take care.